I will say it kind of went into some... It got kind of verbose in some areas. Like, there were some pages where it was like...
It was.
Like, I mean, look at this.
Yeah.
That's like...
That's a lot of words.
That's a lot of words. And, like, I kind of, like... I, like, started, like, not paying attention, like, as I was reading. I kind of caught myself having to go back and reread because I was kind of... Just trying to get through the words because it was a lot of words sometimes.
Okay.
Basically, when he started talking about like the world and the monsters and stuff like that, and just kind of ranted a little bit, I just felt like it could have been more concise. I don't know.
I was more into the story, I guess. I really like Frankenstein and all the different takes on Frankenstein.
And you're reading a Frankenstein
I'm actually
book.
reading a novel right now that's kind of a prequel to Frankenstein. I watched James Whale's great Universal Frankenstein with Boris Karloff not long ago. So it's all about Frankenstein for me lately. So I really enjoyed this book. There were those verbose pages. I didn't find them too verbose. Again, it was verbose for Sala. But in the same book, you have passages basically with, characters walking along this kind of wasteland, and there's really almost no words. It's very minimalist. So I felt there was a real balance there. So, yeah. So we both liked it. Definitely would recommend it. I mean, I don't even know if I liked it a little bit more, but it just, I guess what the things that were maybe minor annoyances to you didn't even bother me. So. It was all good as far as I'm concerned. Well, let's talk about a couple of earlier books that Richard Sala did, both of which center around his character Peculia. So we're going to be talking about the aptly named book Peculia. So this is a collection of short stories, and also the original graphic novel Peculia and the Grungrove Vampires. So as you can see on the covers of those two books, Peculia is a young lady. Seems like she's in maybe her teens or something, maybe early 20s, who wears a short purple dress and runs around barefoot and gets involved in all kinds of supernatural escapades and adventures and mischief. And we don't really know too much about her. This is where I'm thinking the lack of characterization comes in, is in the Peculia stories, whereas by comparison, the Hidden seem like freaking, War and Peace or something. But I like Peculia. Let me say that right up front. The stories in the book just called Peculia were a collection of the Peculia stories from his comic book series Evil Eye, which Fantagraphics put out in the late 90s, early 2000s. So this collects a bunch of those short stories, and the premise is basically as simple as that I described. We don't really know what the background of Peculia is. She lives in a house. She has a little diminutive manservant, Ambrose. I guess he's kind of her butler. And, basically the stories are Peculia gets up, leaves the house, goes on a walk, goes to buy more cereal. She really likes cereal. And
who doesn't?
When one story, she'll get attacked by cannibal children, and she'll have to overcome that.
It happens.
It happens. And or she'll get attacked by zombies in one story, or she'll go to a little town that's being stalked by the figure of death, and she'll have to defeat death. These little, 5 to 8, 10-page stories. So obviously Peculia, like the Hidden, like all of Richard Sala's work, is in the horror vein. That's just kind of what he does. That's just kind of his shtick. But Peculia has more of a deliberate element of whimsy and light comedy, and a little bit of cheesecake. Peculia sometimes will get her clothes torn in strategic areas, but in a kind of gentle, kind of fun way. So these books are very light. They don't go into very much depth. There's a little bit of an overarching storyline with this character called Obscurus, who's bandaged, kind of like the Invisible Man. And he has a woman working for him called Justine, who dresses as a superhero. Those two characters have some interest in Peculia. We don't really know if they're friends or foes or what their ultimate objective is, nor do we really ever find out. So there's a little bit of an overarching storyline, but mostly it's Peculia encountering these various supernatural threats and overcoming them, usually quite easily. She doesn't really seem to have too much trouble. So it's just kind of a lot of fun for people who like horror, who like monsters, and who like pretty girls fighting monsters, which I do. So I had fun reading the Peculia stories. They're a little bit earlier than the Hidden here, so I think his art is even more refined in the Hidden, but it's quite nice in the black and white artwork that we see here. Again, a lot of people have compared him to Edward Gorey, Charles Addams, so clearly it's in that mode. Peculia and the Grungrove Vampires was published after the Evil Eye comic book series had wrapped up, and it's kind of like Peculia the movie in that it's a full-length Peculia story originally published as a graphic novel, but it's really just kind of a long Peculia story. It's not as though this is where we find out the origin of Peculia, although there's a few hints to her backstory in this one. But it's basically just a chance to kind of tell a longer story, not really a more complex story, but a longer story with that character. In this case, she and a group of 3 other girls go to babysit, or supposedly they're going to babysit these kids at this house, but it ends up this is all just a scheme by this family of vampires, and I think most or all of the other girls are killed off, and Peculia has to fight off the vampires at the end with the help of some gypsies. And again, it's just kind of a great romp through the horror genre. So there's not too much more to say about Peculia. It kind of is what it is. But this is the kind of stories that Sala does really well. He's been working for a long time. He was published in Art Spiegelman's legendary Raw alternative comics anthology, and he's done animation for MTV's Liquid Television. So he really knows what he's doing. He's really found a great niche with these kind of slightly satirical horror stories. And Peculia is a really good example of the kind of work he's done for a lot of years. Again, not a lot of depth here, but a nice Halloween treat, I thought.
Yeah, he does a great job with suspense. There's a little bit of mystery thrown in, but I don't know. I really like Peculia. More for the stories that feature her than the character, probably.
She's something of a cipher, but she's cute, and it's fun to see this kind of innocent seeming girl against all these dark forces.
Yeah, exactly. And I've read some other works from Richard Sala. You read Delphine.
Yeah.
But The Chuckling What's-It is another really good one that's a mystery with a lot of scary images in it. But the suspense in that one, I think, is the best of all of his works. He does some really great writing in that one, I feel like, compared to some of the other ones.
Okay.
So a little more depth in that one, I feel like. And Cat Blur Girl Black we read from that first second books actually put out. I know you weren't a big fan of that one.
Well, it was good. I didn't like it as much as other stuff. That one is kind of deliberately written, I think, for younger readers, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I really like that one. That might be my favorite from him. Maybe not. I don't know. It's kind of like sometimes I think Peculia and the Grove Vampires. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is hard to say.
Sometimes the Hidden, sometimes Chunkley Walks It, sometimes Kepler.
Yeah,
so I kind of go back and forth.
That's the thing with Sala. I don't know that he has one definitive work.
Yeah.
But all of his work is kind of a piece. So I feel like if people think this kind of thing sounds interesting, they can kind of pick up any Richard Sala book at random, and they get a pretty good idea of what he's done throughout his career. But that doesn't mean he doesn't continue to evolve and innovate as a cartoonist, because, as you say, Hidden is one of the best things he's ever done. But he's definitely, like I said, he's found that niche, and it's a fun genre to explore. And he's a cartoonist whose sensibilities are kind of similar to my own. I mean, I love monsters, and I like horror and all that kind of thing. So it's good. I like it. I think he was a great choice to talk about on our Halloween episode. One other thing I want to say about Peculia too is how great would it be to still have this series coming out as comic books? I mean, maybe I'm in the minority. I mean, obviously I'm in the minority because nobody can afford to publish them anymore, but I really miss... Well, I didn't even miss because I came in a little late in the game, but, like, I wish there were more alternative, like, comic books. Like, not graphic novels, but I think it would just be wonderful to read a regularly released Richard Sala, 20, 30-page comic book.
Well, I mean, Delphine was going up until last year.
Yeah, but that's in the kind of hybrid
Yeah.
format. I mean, I just... reading these Peculiar stories collected, I just thought, it was so great to get like a Richard Sala comic book on a regular basis. But the alternative comic book is rapidly becoming a thing of the past. So fortunately, the work is preserved in these handsome volumes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, I
Very
think
good.
that's about it for this time. So happy Halloween, everybody,
have
and
a
check
safe
out.
and happy Halloween. Yeah.
Yep, check out Richard Sala. I would say Hidden or Peculiar are great places to start. So, yeah, thank you for tuning in again, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.